So his statement about it being bad people and tyrannical doesn't hold up. As a matter of fact, it's the polar opposite. I thought that we had enough of Andrew Tate, but apparently he wants round 2, and also I don't know if you saw, but he's going to fight Jake Paul. Andrew Tate actually was like a former kickboxing champion, so I don't know how that match is going to go. I hope that Jake Paul, even though I don't like the Paul brothers, I hope Jake Paul kicks Andrew Tate's ass. Maybe he will shut up after that.
As Andrew Tate, whose videos have been viewed billions of times online, but he's been banned from pretty much every mainstream social media platform, including Twitter. Andrew Tate, welcome back to Piers Morgan Uncensored. Your take on this, I think, is quite interesting because you've been a victim of being, if victim's the right word, but you've been removed from social media platforms for your opinions. Elon Musk has dedicated himself, he says, to restoring free speech. Do you think that's going to include...
Elon Musk's free speech costs only $8. That's the strange conception of free speech. If you want to speak, you have to pay $8. If you're like, oh, but that's just to be verified. No. Elon Musk has stated that you will be shadow banned if you don't pay the $8. You are not going to be shown. Your retweets, your answers, your tweets, they're going to be in the bottom of the barrel. So if you want to get anything if you want to be noticed, you have to pay the $8. So we have actually gotten an answer to what is the cost of free speech, and it is $8.
Include you, for example?
I don't think it matters if it includes me or not. I think what's important is that free speech is the #1 weapon against absolute tyranny. And although you cannot have complete free speech because then conversations completely break down into asinine insult fests, I do like the idea of the changing of the guard when it comes to control over information.
Is it possible, Andrew Tate, to actually police something like Twitter, to be a platform for genuine free speech? Or is it so toxic and tribal now that whatever happens, before we had all the people on the right screaming away that they were being no platformed and so on. Now you've got all the people on the left screaming that they're being diminished in some way. It's very tribal, very toxic. Can Musk cut through that? And if so, how?
There was nothing wrong with Twitter before Musk bought it. People who say they couldn't say what they thought, what they were thinking, what they wanted to say, it was probably going to be really fucking homophobic, racist, or just borderline misogynistic. So I don't think censoring that is a bad thing. You can still say what you think, as long as it's not like targeting anyone. So there was nothing wrong with Twitter before Musk bought it. And now there is actually a problem with Twitter, which is the freedom of speech isn't free anymore. It's $8.
How?
Yeah, it's going to be extremely difficult. There's always going to be one group of people who are extremely unhappy, but I think that anybody who's perspicacious enough to understand the truth of what's been going on in the world recently will know that the left and their narratives have certainly been protected for a very long time. And the universe has swings and balances, and God often restores balance to the universe, and perhaps it might swing the other way for a while. I truthfully am a person who believes that all points of view are extremely important, because as soon as you block points of view, you have absolute tyranny.
And in a way, it's sort of self-defeating, isn't it? Because you carried on getting huge attention. It was interesting to me that when you came on the show, for example, we've had, I think, nearly 6 million people have viewed the whole interview that we did, which is a huge number of people, certainly far higher than watched it on conventional television. So you have a whole world out there online which operates away from social media platforms.
Yeah, I've been very, very successful in spite of them, but not many people can do that. I'm in a pretty unique position, but I think that everybody needs a voice to a degree, and social media platforms are now the most important platforms on the planet. They control information and they influence real world decisions, and they influence people's perception of reality.
That's the reason why one of the biggest social media platforms shouldn't be in the hands of one person. Like, especially like because he didn't have any plan for Twitter. He's just winging it. He's just throwing it and see if it sticks. Okay, next week we're gonna do blah blah blah, and people are like, yeah, fuck you, no, fuck that. Okay, we're not gonna do that, but we're gonna do this. Yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah, I'm a fucking genius. That's basically the way Elon Musk thinks. That he will just throw a million things at you, and if you say you don't like something, yeah, we're not gonna do that. If you say that you like something, yeah, I'm a fucking genius. I invented this. I'm fucking Tesla. Tapping into electricity.
Last few years of COVID have been a perfect example of what happens when you censor one side of the argument and you only allow one point of view to be purported by the matrix in and of itself, and that's how you end up in tyrannical situations. I think you were just...
I think you can't be a servant of God and talking about matrix in the same fucking interview. It's kind of strange. That's one thing I've always find kind of strange about Andrew Tate is like he's saying that he believes in God, he's a servant of God, but he's talking about the Matrix so fucking much, and that goes against the belief of a divine thing pulling the strings.
Just discussing that, Piers.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfectly valid point. You know, people have quite rightly held me to task over some of the positions I took during the COVID pandemic, notably when the scientists said as a definitive fact that you couldn't transmit the virus if you had the vaccine. It turned out that wasn't true. And I based my observations on that supposed fact.
And that's exactly what you're supposed to do. In an immediate threat of an unknown virus, a pandemic, the best way is to listen to people who have some sort of education or educational field of view what to do. You don't go to Google and start Googling things yourself because you don't know shit. That's why initially you should listen to medical professionals and scientists on what to do, because they are the closest to that field of expertise, and they will fucking know because they have trained their whole lives on different situations. They may be wrong, because as fast spreading of a virus that COVID was, there isn't that much time. So of course you need to make decisions really fast, and you can't follow every fucking procedure. In that sense, we still did relatively well. In hindsight, of course, it's fucking easy to say that, yeah, we stepped over boundaries, we did bad things, but hey, in the heat of the moment, you have to make those really tough decisions. Some are right, some are wrong. If you wait too much, people die.
And said, right, well, in that case, if you refuse to be vaccinated, you shouldn't get the same rights as people who've been vaccinated. If it's true that if you're unjabbed, you can pass it on. It turned out, actually, there's not much difference whether you've been vaccinated or not. And at that point, I changed my mind. But I felt that there were a lot of people who were being deplatformed from Twitter at the time for questioning the validity of scientific statements, and they would then be a complete U-turn. So I do think it was a very interesting period, actually, for testing what free speech means.
It was actually worse than that. You're right, Piers, but it was actually worse than interesting, because what happens is when you censor an entire side of the argument and only allowed one side of the argument to have a voice, you are changing reality in real time. You are shaping the world.
It wasn't an argument to have. It was people who know what they're talking about against conspiracy theorists who spread fucking lies. So that's not like two sides of the same coin. That's like one side having the coin and the other side is using a button, like from your jacket. Broken clock is right 2 times a day. I just want to say that. They were just spouting shit because they believe in conspiracies, and they happen to be right this time.
The only reason that scam continued as long as it did, and the only reason people didn't get to see their own parents get buried, and the only reason people sat and missed cancer appointments because they were scared of the common cold was because they were censoring anybody who said anything.
That's disinformation. It's a bit worse than a common cold.
Contrary to the purported version of events that the mainstream media decided they want the entire world to swallow. It's beyond simply interesting, and it's beyond simply funny or coincidental.
Yeah, I mean, I will challenge you on.
Did you see? They silenced Andrew Tate. They muted his mic.
One thing, it's not the common cold, right?
Yeah, that's. I'm happy that Piers Morgan took that stance. Like, it is worse than the common cold, and saying that it is a common cold, that just proves that you're just against the mainstream narrative. You want to be against the left, which is basically the ones that we're pushing.
COVID-19 has killed 6.6 million people. It is one of the most deadly viruses, certainly of our lifetime. So it wasn't the common cold, but I do think it is completely justified for people to say we should be more cautious, I think.
Yeah, because it spread it more easily. And actually, like, we still don't have the data of long COVID. We don't know what long COVID does. We know that it actually lessens your lungs capacity to work, so it actually makes your lungs worse by a few percents or even 10% in some cases. Like, I think the biggest drop at the moment was 22 or 23%, the work capacity of your lungs, and that's a pretty fucking hefty percentage to lose the capacity of your lungs. Over 20%. Of course, it's not like all of them. That's like the polar opposite end. Of course, there's like people who doesn't like suffer from any loss of like working capacity of the lung, but the other side is like severe loss, like over 20%. That's a huge loss of working capacity of your lung. But we still study long COVID, and it's a good thing because COVID is still around us, and it's going to affect the people for a long time, and people are already forgetting it.
About accepting during fast-moving pandemics the word of scientists as being sacrosanct, because on a number of things, from the use of masks to the efficacy of vaccines in preventing transmission, they did massive U-turns.
That's a huge W for Piers Morgan for taking a stance and actually like shoving some facts to that fucking smug face of Andrew Tate. I don't like Piers Morgan, I don't like Andrew Tate, but that's a huge W for Piers Morgan, and I love to see that smug get schooled about how to actually like react to a fast spreading virus and, well, scientific facts.
I've read enough history books to know that the people who do the censoring are never the good guys. And they've been censoring a lot of arguments for a very long time in the name of good. They are weaponizing virtue.
Fucking yeah, I agree. Fuck Christians. I'm pretty sure he hasn't written the right. He hasn't read the right history books, because the biggest censor of human history is Christianity. Christianity has censored the most throughout the human history. Probably not gonna mention that one. And also, that's like a really fucking dumb take again. Like that is not true. If I want to censor the N-word, which I do, that doesn't make me a bad person.
And it's always in the name of tyranny. Anybody
it's not in the name of tyranny. It's just a bad word. I don't want it to be said.
who is out here trying to silence an entire side of an argument on any subject, whether it's COVID-19, immigration, anything else, they are the evil people who are out for absolute mind control.
That is complete bullshit. It has no like factual base. And as a matter of fact, people who are often wanting to like silence the hate speech and disinformation regarding immigrants are actually doing a lot of good for the immigrants. So he's thinking because they are censoring some speech that they are like bad. And this like Tate's constantly winking when speaking. Yeah, like I think his facial features are really fucking annoying. But his argument that those who are censoring speech are evil and tyrannical doesn't actually hold up when you think about it. People who censor speech are doing really good things. If you're censoring, for example, misinformation spread about COVID, they were working around the clock for helping people not get COVID, help those who had COVID, and try to save those who were severely injured. Also, in the immigration conversation, those who are censoring hate speech and misinformation about immigration are actually like helping the fucking immigrants. So his statement about it being bad people and tyrannical doesn't hold up. As a matter of fact, it's the polar opposite.
Control of the populace, and they
Well,
should be feared.
I certainly agree. I certainly agree that I think the healthiest thing for any democracy is for all views to be aired and debated. We seem to have lost.
No, I don't think all views should be aired. All views, you can have a view, but should it get like airtime? No. Like, if it's a public platform, the country can decide what to say. Especially like, for example, hate speech. I don't think hate speech laws should be taken away. There should be like really strict limitations and follow them. There should be no room for interpretation. Like, they should be really strict. I don't think every view should be aired.
Lost the ability to.
I don't see how a full-blown Nazi, for example, coming to Piers Morgan's show and just spouting like, yeah, Holocaust didn't happen, all that fucking anti-Semitic. Oh, that's Kanye West, actually. Oh shit, that actually happened. And there was backlash of that. I think that backlash was the right thing to happen. I think Kanye West was like spouting conspiracies, hurting people by saying anti-Semitic things. All of you shouldn't get airtime.
Debate. You know, when I interviewed you, yeah, we had a few fractious moments, but actually, I thought it was a pretty spirited debate between people who perhaps had, you know, preconceived views of each other. And I've got no problem interviewing you now about these because I think you have an interesting take on this stuff.
I think Piers Morgan is just like interviewing Andrew Tate because he knows that he's going to get clicks and views. Because he's born and raised to be a TV person.
And that's the key to life. When you reach that level of adolescence in your mindset where you can't handle any point of view that is contrary to your own, then you're truly a broken person. And that's what the internet is purporting. It's very interesting you said about Twitter being tribal. There's a large contingent of people on Twitter who simply cannot handle reading an opinion which differs from their own. And that is a degree of immaturity that we do not need adults to be functioning with in the modern world.
No,
What we don't need is adults like Andrew Tate or Joe Rogan or Elon Musk even. Even though Elon Musk, people are considering him to be a genius and a person who is actually like looking towards future. But people like Andrew Tate, Joe Rogan, Elon Musk even, they don't want change. They want things to be as they are. As a matter of fact, a lot of them want things to go backwards in time. To a time where you can say what the fuck you wanted about who the fuck you wanted. You can just pick a person in the street and call him whatever you wanted to call him. They want women to be home, make babies, take care of the kids, make food. I don't want that. And a lot of people in the world doesn't want that because we are evolving. We are evolving to a more equal society, which is a fucking huge step towards what's like going to be our future. And I think that's going to make a lot of things better. So these people to say that we need to go backwards in time to a time where men are men dress like men, and men don't have long hairs, and men don't play video games, and men don't make food for themselves because women need to make food. I don't like it. I don't want to go back to that time. That's a horrible fucking take. And a lot of these right-wing social media content creators are basically wanting that.
I agree. If you were Elon Musk, this idea of charging $8 now a month, whatever it is, to access the blue tick premium Twitter account. Would you do that? Would you pay the extra?
I think that social media companies for a very long time have lived in an absolute fantasy where they've printed money from thin air by charging people for pixels, and they grew into these large conglomerates with too many staff sitting around doing nothing, having coffee breaks. And Elon Musk is a businessman. He's walked into the office and he's firing a bunch of people who are messing around doing nothing, and he wants his business to make money, as it absolutely should. And how he decides that.
And that's the reason why Twitter is losing him money at record-breaking pace. All of his companies. He isn't a businessman. You can't consider a person a businessman by just buying himself into a business that's already a great idea. That's basically what Elon Musk has done for his whole life. He has never fucking started anything with himself. He has always bought himself into a business that's already successful. That's not a sign of a businessman. And there's actually a great Twitter thread showcasing all of Elon Musk's downfalls. For example, Elon Musk, that time Elon told his engineers to stop doing brake tests on Model 3s. The tests were finding too many defects and he wanted to speed up the manufacturing process. Is that hardcore engineering? Tesla has been much faster to do recalls in China than in the US. One of the China recalls sounds like it could be about the defect in the bottom. This story put me on Tesla's shit list. It showed the factory chaos and explained why Musk desperately behind schedule while building the Model 3. And if you're looking at it from an accounting lens, it's actually extremely suspect too. Like, all of the decisions Musk make, almost all of the decisions Musk make are really fucking bad business-wise.
That happens is his prerogative. I don't see why we should sit and accept that a website needs 200,000 people sitting around discussing in long meetings, sitting on beanbags about policy of human rights of some garbage, when he's come along and said, no, I'm a businessman. We're going to charge for our service. We're going to reduce the number of staff. And we're going to be a functional.
No, the reason why he's charging for his service, although he masked it to be like giving power to the peasants because the elite has had the power to have the blue check mark. No, it's that Twitter would make money. At the moment, he's losing money for owning Twitter because advertisers don't want to be on that platform. So he needed to create a subscription for Twitter because he tries to like cut the losses as much as he can. Now he threatened the fucking staff of Twitter that you can't work work from home. You need to be on office. Which is he stated that you need to be 40 hours in the office or get the fuck out. There's no reason to work from the office if you work for Twitter. It's a fucking social media company. You can work from home. But at the end of the day, he's a car salesman. Of course, he wants everybody to come to work because he wants everybody to buy a Tesla to come to work. He wants people to use roads because otherwise his biggest business would go bankrupt.
Coherent company, as they should be. And it's his prerogative to do it as he's bought the company. I think he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree because I remember the appalling censorship of the New York Post exclusive about Hunter Biden, the son of the president, about his laptop. This is 3 weeks before the election that Joe Biden won. He was heading, to a possible victory, but it was tight. And that story, they reckon, could have tipped it either way. But it was completely suppressed and censored, starting with Twitter, then Facebook, then others. Twitter literally locked out the New York Post account for 2 weeks for breaking a completely true story. And I thought that was shameful.
It's worse than shameful. It's worse than shameful. When you control information, you control the real world. They affect the real world in real time. They are genuinely affecting the reality people live in. They are not just a company. They're not just a social media platform. It affects absolutely every single person on the planet when it changes who is elected. I don't want to comment specifically on Hunter Biden or the laptop. I would never kill myself. But I don't think it's fair that they would hide certain key information that close to an election. And the fact.
And now you have a person who's owning the company, Twitter, that just before the midterms said that vote Republicans. How is that any different? I will say it is not any different. Like, nothing's changed except that you have to now pay for $8 if you want free speech.
That they've done that was done specifically to affect the world that we all live in. And we all have to suffer the consequences of those things. So to sit and say that these companies can just do whatever they want and they're private, etc. No, free speech is beyond important for democracy. It's important for the reality that we exist under.
You live in Bulgaria or Romania. You're a British person. What free speech are you talking about? Are you talking about the free speech you have in Romania, which is little to none? Or are you talking about the free speech you have in Great Britain, which differs quite a lot from the First Amendment in United States? Because people are saying that the First Amendment, Twitter should hold the First Amendment. That's the reason why Twitter should have free speech and you should be able to. No, Twitter is a multinational corporation. What First Amendment are you going to use? What form of free speech are you going to use? Some would argue that Twitter is a United States-based company. That's a great argument. But again, it's a private company. It can decide their own customers. They can also decide what speech is allowed. So what First Amendment are you talking about? The argument of First Amendment and Twitter is really fucking dumb. And anybody who makes that argument should feel ashamed and shouldn't be able to vote ever.
Andrew Tate, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank
you. That was an important click. Like, thanks, Andrew Tate. Oh, fuck. But yeah, I think that asshat shouldn't get any more, like, TV time. But it's always fun to see what dumb things he's going to say next.